I'm back. Well, what have we got today? Well, we've got something rather different. This is the second in the series of simulated amplifiers. Yeah, the first one was the revival drive, which simulated tube amp tones from transistors. This one is a wholly different thing, or it might be actually the same thing. It's all relative, really. This little thing that we're looking at here, this spirit tone generator, could be transistorized. Who knows what it is, but let's dig a bit deeper and see what this amp's really all about before we go and plug it in and hear what it's like and have a comparison between this one and the Grandmeister 36, which I still have, by the way. So Grandmeister 36 will be interesting. You can check my review on it from the text down there. I had a full review like this one. Or you can sit here and watch this one, and I'm going to pull this apart and show you the parts that other people don't show you. Yeah, which I think will be a very, very interesting route to go down. Yeah, the Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200. Well, as you can see, I've got the manual and all the rest of it. But you know what? I'm not going to do any of that. We're going to take the lids off and we can look inside first. See what this thing's really made of. Yeah. Let me go find the screwdriver. I'll be back. Okay, as you can see, I've quickly screwed off both end caps and I'm ready to lift the top off. That should be interesting. Let's get a bit closer and take a look what's going on. Well, here we are with the lid off. It's highly likely this is the very, very first time you will have ever seen inside this Black Spirit 200 amplifier. Yeah, what more can I say? So let's take a quick look inside this Black Spirit 200. Oh my God, the pigeon's out again. There he is. But don't worry about him, he won't stop us. So this section here is really the power supply section. It's quite clear that it's a power supply section. It's got loads of stuff bolted on a big fat. This is to reduce the heat from various components. As we move down, you'll see what I mean. Remember, this is supposed to be 200 watts out. Yeah. Well, it might be, or it might not. We'll come back to that presently on this front panel. Let's move further down this way and see what else we've got down here. Now, believe it or not, we're in the power amp section of this device. You've got various transistors down here, and your speaker out's that one there. You can just about see it. And we got another couple of little bits and pieces. It's all surface mount, all very, very tiny, all very, very difficult to fix if you get a problem. In fact, you probably won't fix it. But that's the sort of thing you're buying. That's what happens these days. I must say, irrespective of what the rest of the amp actually is, that it is made well. And the other H&K that I looked at was also made well. They usually are. Yeah, very well put together. Where's it made? Well, we'll have a look a bit closer about that later, won't we? But there it is. There's your power section all along here. And there's not really much down this other end except for MIDI and that sort of thing. The FX loop and MIDI down at this other end off camera. But there isn't much off camera. Let's go and take a look. Like I said, there's not really much to look at, is there? We've got, this is the FX loop board. You can see it whizzes across over to the front panel. Very interesting. And that front panel's got all the controls on it. Another couple of interesting things we're going to get to look at. Below this bit is the MIDI I/O down underneath here. Not much to see there either. So let's go and concentrate on that front panel area for a little while. Well, here, this is the front panel that goes all the way along with all the controls on it. and there are a lot of controls on that front panel. There's not really huge amounts of circuitry on that front panel. Little bits here and little bits there. But what there is this board here. This board here is like a piggyback board to the main board. And from what I can see of it, it's got a processor on there, and it looks like it's got a firmware little section and things like that. I might put a few pictures up, but I might not, because it's very difficult to see it. I could disconnect it and pull it off, but I don't think I'll bother doing that. It's more trouble than it's actually worth, because you can't easily get at the bottom one down here. This bottom screw, you see it there. There's only 2 screws that hold it on. But it is an interesting board, and it's not that dissimilar from a board that was in the GM36. But I think this one's got a few extra bits and pieces on it, and contrary to what a lot of things are, well, I don't know. I think that's where all the effects are, but there could be some things relating to the tones of the amp. Well, we're going to move along. So don't discount that board as being nothing except effects, because that might well not be the case. So a lot of secrecy shrouded over this amp relating to these areas. I'm never convinced by anybody unless I see it as factual. But they won't tell you anything, or very little. Now when you look on the front of this amp, you see that stupid window that lights up and nothing happens. It's just like a glow in the dark type of thing. It's a horrible design, and you'd have thought they'd have done better than that, really. But that's the way they are, and yeah, it doesn't impress me particularly. No, it doesn't. But there it is, the device. It sits edge on, sticking into the window at the front of the amp. Well, what's it do? Well, who knows what it does? They claim that's how you get the tones out of it. Well, it could be. It could be a circuit that has processing in it and 1 or 2 other different little bits and pieces, you know, to shape tones. And well, actually probably very similar but smaller to what we saw in the Origin pedal. That had loads of transistors and things to simulate particular circuitry, and they did a pretty good job of it. So, well, I guess these could do a pretty good job of it, but just miniaturize those components into that and put a piece of plastic over it so you can't really tell what it is. I'm sure they could do that. Well, they probably did. Maybe not. Who knows? They aren't telling me, and they're certainly not telling you. But there it is. It's got a few supporting components, not much else around it, except for that board down there. And then we move across to, well, to be honest, the rest of this circuit board doesn't really have that much on it except controls. As you see there, that's the rest of the circuit board. The white thing we were looking at's just there, if you can get to see that. Yeah. And we come down the circuit board. There's not really much else to look at, is there? It's all pretty boring. What I can say is it's very well made, as I said earlier, and that's always a good thing. On this particular one as well, we've got a slight modification to the light that shines down on the front of the amp. That's where it's pulled off the board. By the way, that's the little wire that goes up for the LEDs. But the LEDs on this one are screwed across and held in position with 3 screws, whereas on the GM36 it was a slightly different setup. So do you really get much for your money? Well, bearing in mind this was knocking on for, I think when it first came out it was £1,000 or something like that, which is about, I don't know, $1,250 or something like that. But currently you can buy this for £699, including the tax, of course, in England. I'm not sure of the price in the USA, but it won't be hyper cheap. And when you look inside this unit, you start to question really. Why is it £700 even? There isn't that much in it. There's a switch mode power supply down there. We've got a couple of transistors for the output side, and then we've got this circuit here. I want a few effects, and that's it. That's all you get for your money. So, well, what else can I say? What else could I say? Well, that's what else I could say. There it is, a different view. Power supply, output amplifier section, FX loop, MIDI down underneath, and then you've got this front panel with its stupid looking piece of plastic that sits on the front and doesn't really do anything except glow a bit. Well, I don't know what to say about that really. And then you've got this board here, down here, this one, that's got a load of gear on it. Yeah, pity I can't get any more at that one, because I'd love to do a bit of analysis on it. But anyway, the build quality's fine. I wanted to show you inside just to show you what you don't get for your money. And yeah, let's go back. There's not much else to see in there. Okay, well, here we are around the front. I'm not going to cover it in the same way I did with the Grandmeister 36, because you can go and have a look at the Grandmeister 36 from down below. I'll put a little link to this section, because it's exceedingly similar. The controls look almost identical. Almost, not quite the same, but the procedures are very, very similar. We've got an input at this end. We have a little boost if you want to boost any given channel. We've got 4 separate modes in a given channel, which is interesting. And we've got gain, volume, bass, mid, treble, noise gate and sag. We've got resonance and presence and a master volume. The sag all relates to changing the tone of the amplifier. There it is. Changing the tone of the amplifier as if it had run out of input power. And it makes the tubes, if there were any, sag, or you can hear the difference in the tone. That's the point. Pretty much actually like the origin pedal had in its vocabulary. Very similar idea. Both simulated. There are no tubes in either. Definitely no tubes in this one. So we'll come back to that to look at these other things. So with the resonance, which it'll boost the bottom end, presence, which will sort of boost the top end and a bit more. Then we've got the master volume, the one that looks after everything. We're going to have a look around the back in a short while. If we want to use phones, we can put a set of headphones in here, which is useful to say the least. And we've got 128 channels, believe it or not, and this is just one of them. 128 channels that we can store. Now the thing is about storing them and getting them back, you can faff around a little bit on these things to change channels on the knobs, but the fact is, if you haven't got the floor pedal, you're doing half a job. And my advice would be to go and get the floor pedal, the recommended pedal, which is, by the way, it's the same one I believe that's on the Grandmeister 36. So if you find one of those around, it's worth buying to put on this. Unless you don't want to spend any money and you just want to sell it after listening. That's another story. But looking at these here anyway, let's come back to this. We've got a clean, crunch, lead and ultra. And we can turn this on or off. You see, it remembers what you did. I'm going to turn it back off. So it remembers what you did, and then you can store things with this store button here. Looking along it, along the bottom of these two descriptors, is what these things do as standard. But if we hit FX access, what you now have to do is to read what's above that line. And now we've got intensity, modulation type, delay time, feedback, delay level, reverb, and importantly cab type. So let me turn that back off. So cab type actually presents you with a number of cab simulations, of which there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. And it was on that one, number 3, for this particular channel. So with that in, we're changing the cab. With that out, we're changing the sagging, or the sag, purportedly from the tube amplifier, as it can't get enough voltage. Well, I guess that could be done. That's what they say they've done. What more can you say? We've got an FX loop that we can turn on and off. And when we've changed things, we just change, let's turn this until it lights. When it lights, when you turn it till it lights, when it lights, like that did, that's the position of this current channel setting. Because these knobs, they're like not quite real knobs. And so when you get to where it is, they light up like that. So you can see on that one it's there. This one we could sort of, oh, it's there. Maybe not, that's preset. That's there. And you can turn these until you see on each one that one's pretty high. You can turn these until when they come on, that's the way the knobs are actually set. So now you can see the little dots to determine what the channel's really like. Yeah, all very simple. It's a very good way of doing things, and on the Grandmeister 36 it's just as good as this one, except that it doesn't have some of these other things that it doesn't really need, because it is a tube amp. This one isn't. The little circuit there, you're looking at the end on view of a circuit board that's got a number of discrete components on it. They look like discrete components. They also look like they've got a couple of lights. If you can see there, it's bright there and it's bright there. So you've got a LED there and a LED there, somewhere built into the plastic, shining down so you can at least see something of the PCB. It doesn't go brighter or duller. It just stays as horrible and as ugly as it looks there. Nothing changes. How bad's that? You've also got the usual Hughes and Kettner lit up title, and you can see on this one we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LEDs, and just underneath this front it's like a lip, which is what these LEDs shine down onto the plastic front that makes it look like that. I've still got the plastic on over here, as you can see. I'll leave that on for now, in case I sell it. We'll see. I have already played this, by the way. So let's take a look around the back, see what you get around there. Well, I dare say it's almost as boring as it is round the front. Or dare I say that? Yeah, I dare, yeah. So let's go from this end and work that way. And I think I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see little sections. That adds up, doesn't it? Okay, well, whipping along, we've got MIDI in and MIDI out and through, which is useful because on this one you'll notice there's 7 pins, and 2 of those pins power the foot controller that is an optional extra, so you don't need any extra power to the foot controller, which is nice. That's very much like the GM36 and probably all the others. We've got an auxiliary in if you want to play along to your music. Well, some people do. Some people do that, and yeah, good for practicing, I guess, and all that. You don't forget you've got your headphones at the front, so that makes sense as well, if that's what you want to do. Remember, you can play this amp with no speaker in because it's transistorized. We've got an FX loop, we've got a send and a return. There might be some FX loop volume somewhere, but I don't think there is. I think it's, you get what you get. We've got a DI out, which is the purported Redbox AE, Redbox Plus AE, it says here, ambience emulated. So it's emulating again. Fancy that. So it's probably got some type of speaker or something in there. It's got mic or line for the output. It is. nice and nice and simple. And we've got the ambience emulated on or off. I'll leave it on for now. Can't say much more about that. It's just on that PCB at the back that we saw, and what else is there to say? On the speaker front, here's the speaker out. It's an 8 to 16 ohm, so you can use any the 8 or the 16. And we've got a 2 watt output, we've got a 20 watt out, or we've got a 200 watt output. We've got a guitar cabinet, or what's really a PA cabinet, I guess. A full range cab, yeah. Well, I stick it on the guitar one because that's the way I am. And it says here, caution, connect to speakers and cabinets only. Connection with, what's it say, grounded devices, i.e. power soak, will cause damage. Well, it will, so don't go near it. Yeah. Now we got the Hughes and Kettner bit. It says Hughes and Kettner is a brand of some company, Germany, with an address. It has to have an address. Yeah. And lastly, the power input. But more important than the power input, we've all seen one of them. Caution, rear panel and ventilation openings may become too hot to touch. Okay, it's got some certification there that I'm not sure of. I don't know that one. ROSH compliant, PSC, CE, don't throw it in your bin. It contains FCC ID, you see that? Contains it. And also contains IC 5123A BGTW T321. Fancy that. So we can have a look at those a bit later, can't we? And down here it's 100 to 240 volts, so it doesn't matter where you buy it, guys, you can buy it anywhere. 50 or 60 hertz, so auto switch very nicely, thanks very much. The maximum power consumption is 300 watts. It's designed and engineered in Germany, but this one's made in China. I think the GM36 was made in China as well. Yeah. By the way, it's a light unit as well. In fact, it's very light. Makes you wonder what you're getting for your money. Yeah, what more can I say about that? I don't know. It'd be good if you were doing it, if you're lugging it around for gigs. Yeah, I mean, it's got a little bit of weight to it, but really, a lot of it's the case, or it seems that way. Well, what can I say about it? It's concerning that it doesn't actually have tubes. That always concerns me. So the whole series of the simulated stuff, like this, always concerns me about distorted tones. And I know that from all the various Hughes and Kettner amps, that I've ever had, they've always sounded very toppy, whether it was a Triumph 3, whether it was the Grandmeister 36, whether it was the earlier Triumphs, or indeed whether it's the Black Spirit 200. Yeah. They all sound, to my ears, very toppy. I think it's a feature of that company and the way they like their tone. I don't know what anybody else tells you about this unit. I don't go and look at other people's reviews if I can at all help it. So to me, this is a toppy amp. Unlike the Grandmeister 36, where I could flip a few tubes and it sounded a little bit better, I've got nothing I can flip on this one except the presence and the treble. So I'm going to be doing things the old-fashioned way. I don't know if that's good or bad. It could be good. The thing might sound great. I have already heard it. Yeah. So that's why I draw your attention to the treble on it. Let me talk about my perception of what this thing is when it's plugged in. When you first take the amp and you plug it in, as I did with Alan Bruce recently, just the other night, we plugged it in, we put it on top of the stuff and plugged it into a 4x12 and we got it set up on 200 watts. Yeah, and turned it on and just played it on the first channel that was there. We just went through them like this, as you would. Turn this on and off, a few little adjustments, you know, the usual sort of rubbish, and treated it as a one channel amp, almost. Yeah, how did it sound? Well, I have to say, it did sound good. In fact, it sounded quite good, it's quite acceptable. And I was looking at Alan, and Alan's looking at me and saying, oh, maybe they've cracked it. Maybe they've got to the point where that tiny little circuit there simulates all the stuff. So what other features are worth looking at on this amp? Well, there is one very useful feature. And I haven't covered it tonight. I'm going to. If you look there, right down there, it's got a Bluetooth button. And if we were to hold the boost, I believe, you can turn the Bluetooth on. There it is. It's now being searched. Well, you can see it flashing, can't you? Let me turn it back off. If I can. Yeah, turn it back off for now. Because there's a reason, because I'm going to go and set something up so we can have a little play. Anyway, let me go and set up the next little section of this review. And it's quite a good review, I think. And we'll go from there. Well, here we are. There's some good news and some bad news. You can have a remote program that can connect to Bluetooth. Yeah, this can connect to Bluetooth, and there's the Bluetooth, and there's the program. The only problem is it's the wrong program. Yeah, works fine on the Grandmeister 36, but when it comes down to the Black Spirit 200, unless you're an Appleite, it doesn't work. In fact, it's worse than doesn't work. They haven't actually written it. It seems in the Google Store or the Play Store, it's not downloadable. Only the Grandmeister 36 one is. So it's all a bit of a waste of time if you actually use one of 90% of devices in the world. And great if you use one of the 10% of devices in the world. Maybe you've got that much money you don't know what to do with it. I suspect. If you're buying one of these, that's not the case. Right, so I'm not going to demonstrate it because it's not on here and I don't like Apple. I've got an Apple over there, but I hate them. It's with a vengeance. This amplifier has been released for 9 months. No less than 9 months. That must tell you something about this manufacturer. Or the fact that the amp was dropped from a higher price to £699 maybe to make it sell more. Who knows? Oh, you don't believe them fake reviews, do you? But none of them told you about that. Another good thing about the GM36 is that it's second hand, it's cheaper than this. I've seen them going for like £450, £500 or less on occasion. So when you look at a device like this, obviously you're buying it, I would say obviously, you're probably buying it so you can lug it around because it's light, it's efficient, it says, and it'll sound great. Well, it might sound great or it might not sound great, but we're going to have a listen at them tones a little bit later. However, without the floor pedal, it's not the easiest of things to work with. I've got the manual here. This is the important bit. Presets can only be changed via MIDI or via the free app for iPad. So, you haven't spent the £140 on the floor pedal. Or you haven't got an iPad. You can't change channel. How bad's that? Oh, nobody told you that. Oh, yeah, well I did, didn't I? Not the German guys or the Americans that got them free, or the, you know the type, the ones that are earning the money off the YouTube channel and don't care about anything else and get free gear, yeah, all that stuff. But no, you can't change the channel on it if you don't own an iPad, or you don't have the foot controller or a MIDI foot controller. And by the way, they do say the foot controller for For the Black Spirit, if you've got any old foot controller, it's much, much harder to do. I know it is, that's why I'm all. When we were talking about those speakers earlier, you know, those speaker simulations or emulations, I've got a little list here of what they are. A 1B12 modern Theo port, number one. Number two is a 1B12 modern front port. Number three is a 2B12 vintage open back. Number four is a 4B10 Alnico open back. Number five is a 4B12 vintage. Number six is a 4B12 British cab. Number seven is a 4B12 modern cab, probably, yeah. And number eight is a 4B12 American cab. So the cab type affects the red box out and the phones out. However, it does not affect the speaker out when connected to a guitar speaker. Well, clearly. Yeah, but it's all in there. It doesn't give me a massive list of thousands of things that is about it. I guess you need the software. Oh, your Samsung. Oh, what a pity. Yeah, me too. So let's sum it up, shall we? Now remember, I have heard it. You have yet to hear it. It'll either come out good or come out bad on the video. I think it'll probably come out okay. It'll be listenable. At least. Yeah, but the thing is, it's £699. It's nice and light. It's got a red box out, so you could push it to the PA or you could push it to the desk. Well, you could do one or two things with it. It's got all these effects in it, which, if nothing wrong with the effects. It's got Bluetooth in it, when you've got an Apple. It's got 128 channels in it. It hasn't got a floor pedal standard. It hasn't got any other way of changing the presets or selecting the presets. It's 200 watts. It isn't 200 watts as we know it. If I had a 200 watt tube amp, trust me, it'll blow me out of the room. This is loud on 200 watts, yeah, but it's not. This is more like a pussified 200 watts as opposed to the real deal. Now, some people might say, 200 watts is 200 watts. No, it isn't. Transistorized 200 watts is never 200 watts. Go and look at the 1000 watt amp you've got in your car and wonder why it's just above talking. So it's not the same. Don't want anybody kid you, including these guys or any of their people that, oh, look at this, or the guys that are the fakers, or you know what I mean. I like the Bluetooth, like I said. I like the inputs. I like even the headphones. I thought that's pretty cool. I like the 2 watts, the 20 watts and the 200 watts. I like all that stuff. What I don't like is, first of all, I can't read these when I'm away from the amp at all. You've got one tiny drilled black hole on each volume. And to be honest, it's junk. They need to have a little white dot on each one or something. Maybe they're intelligent enough to light them up. Oh no, that's Kemper. I don't like the look of that. I think that should have been just blanked off, and let's not waste our time looking at a circuit board from the side that's got a couple of LEDs over it. I think that's a joke. That's funny. It is funny. Yeah, the rest of it, I don't mind the rest of it. I think it's okay. Let me come back to those tones. Like I said earlier, me and Alan, we were all chomping at the bit, slobbering at the mouth. Oh, this is going to be great. You know, he watched the videos and he kept telling me, oh, it's brilliant. So we plugged it in, 4B12 Marshall cab. And it sounded pretty okay. Yeah. Then we played half an hour with it. Then we turned it off because I was too idle to get the pedal out so we could change channels. So we just played with the knobs. Yeah, you know, as you do. It's all good. And then, believe it or not, I decided to flip on a tube amp. I like that. So I flipped on the tube amp. I won't tell you which one, doesn't really matter. It was in the vicinity. So I plugged it on, turned it on, plugged my guitar in. And then I realised why this is £700 and why it isn't a tube amp. I realised that straight away. But you know what? Until I turned the tube amp on, just after using this, I thought this sounded pretty good. It sounded better than a GT1000, for example. Yeah, so I thought, well, it's not bad. What do you want for your 700 quid? You want all the features, all the things that you think this could be good for, seemed to be good. Yeah. Then you came back to the tube amp. I don't know. Call me a tuber. Oh no. That's another story. Don't call me a tuber. Call me what you want. Doesn't matter. But he didn't sound like a tube amp. It sounded like a Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200. So how would I actually rate this amp? Bearing in mind all the things I've said some positives, I've said some negatives. I've sort of been in the middle of the road with a lot of the stuff, because I am. I'm still in the middle of the road with it. You know, I had an Apple, I could have, you know, and I could have got the floor pedal out, or I could have. I've got the floor pedal. Do you know what I don't it? So, yeah. I think it's going to be 7. Could have been almost 6. Yeah, it could be 6. 627. Let's give it a 6.5. Let me get this right. You thought it would be a 10. Well, it could have been. What stopped it? Hughes and Kettner stopped it. Yeah. So when you go and watch all those videos that you've seen, I haven't seen them, but I'll be going and looking at them from now on because I'm not biased anymore now. I can go and look. When you go and look at them, I'm quite confident that 90% of what I've talked about will never be discussed. They will never raise the points about it. They never raise any of the bad points, do they? And there are some bad points, but there are some good points too. So I don't want to write it off as being terrible. What I want to do is to say it could be good for you if you're gigging because of the weight. You could whack it off straight into the front of house stuff because it's got the ability to do that. You can play it without a speaker card, so there's no excuse there. You have to take the floor pedal or your Apple. You ain't got an Apple. I have to keep on about that. I don't know. So it's reasonable. It's reasonable. That's why it's getting a 6.5. The build quality's fine. You don't get much for your money, do you? So that's it for this one. I could keep on about it. I just feel strong. In the whole scene of things, where we're looking at simulators, well, I think it was reasonable at first viewing, or first play, or first go. I remember that went for half an hour or more with 2 guys. It sounded okay. It probably sound okay to you. So it's not all bad. Some guys will tell you it's brilliant, won't they? Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I bought this one, so I can tell you what it really is like, as opposed to, well, the rest. That's it on this one, the Black Spirit 200. And what have I got coming up next? Oh, I've got a number of things. I'll probably be putting a couple of music ones on or something like that. Or maybe a review of the guy that makes the wah pedals or something like that. But this is the second one in a series, remember, of reviews of simulated amp tones. And that's the thing. Simulated amp tones. Up to now, well, I found these two, this one and the drive pedal, which is a simulated sound, are pretty okay. They're reasonable. They're not particularly. The drive pedal's a drive pedal, and it can make your amp sound like an old driven amp. So it does do a job. It's better than this. This one, on the other hand, well, it's okay. I keep saying that. It's okay. I'm trying to convince myself that it's better than what I've seen. I really wanted this one to be really good. Well, I'll keep it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see. So, I won't tell you which other simulators are coming up because it could be very controversial. And so will the findings, probably. I don't know. I haven't got them yet. So until next time, don't forget to go to TonyMcKenzie.com if you've never been. Now get out of here. Well, I'm back. I've got the mic down here, I'm afraid. I could pick it up, but I don't care. What we got today? Well, we're reviewing this Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200, surrounded by an incredible number of tube amps to see if it cuts to the chase, so to speak. Well, I did talk about it earlier in the review, but you're going to hear it, and I'll play a few different tones that it's got in there by default, assuming I like any. If I think they're crap, I won't bother, I don't think. I'll try and find the best tones, and I'm going to use the yeah, this is the Hughes and Kettner. What is it? It's the pedal, what do they call it? FSM 432 Mark III. So you need one of these. Yeah, or you can twiddle around on the front until you go blue in the face, and that's not going to help you, like I said. So anyway, let me get set up and we'll go from there. So now then, yeah, the mic's down there, so I'm not going to go get one. But basically, yeah, we're checking out the Hughes and Kettner Black Spirit 200 today, and I've got the control pedal, yeah, which is nice, which I showed you. I've got a wah-wah, and I've got nothing else except the guitar, of course. Now, anybody who's seen this this guitar reviewed recently, I'll speak down there, I think. Anybody who's seen this guitar recently will know that it had 5308s or something in it, some pickups that were like, not for me, not really rock. But these ones, I've now fitted in the metal ones. You can't tell, but you just trust me, they're in there, and it's made a hell of a difference to the guitar. This thing's now very playable. Oh, and one last thing, just while we're here, this is supposed to be blue, or a shade of blue. Now when I bought this guitar, I bought it because I like natural coloured guitars and I don't mind slight faint blues and things, which it seems are going to fade away pretty rapidly. Now bear in mind this was a private stock guitar. You'll see a little short video coming up where you will be absolutely shocked at how much this guitar's faded in just a few years. What's PRS do? Probably nothing. But there you go. Just something worth mentioning. Anyway, I'm just going to run through various channels, just going to click the button and record what I think sounds reasonable, and then maybe stuff a track on at the end. Yeah, sounds like a plan, so you get an idea of the tones. I'll try and get the clean tones and I'll try and get the distorted tones and see what you think. To me, it's not bad. Like I said, you've seen the score, so it's not bad. But is it the same as some of these in here? No, it isn't. Nevertheless, worth the money, I guess. Yeah, pity I can't rip that chip apart and yeah, have a look inside. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Anyway, let's get on with it.